Joining us on this episode of Talk to Al Jazeera is Imam Faisal Abdul Rauf. He's the founder of the Cordoba Initiative, which is currently seeking to build a cultural center just 2 blocks away from what's known as Ground Zero in New York City. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Sammy.
Do you think, looking back on the row in August, the peak of that row, you made the right decision not to try and move the cultural center to another location?
Well, there were enormous pressures on us to move. But the really important thing to remember is that we had approached the local community board. This project was welcomed by the community board. They voted, we had 4 separate votes by the community board, where they either unanimously or overwhelmingly, by a vote of 29-1 in favor.
I understand, Imam Faisal, that it's legal,
So,
but my question,
no,
I mean,
not just
you're trying to
legal.
build bridges, aren't you?
Yes, we were
PR-wise, was it the right decision?
It was absolutely the right decision.
No regrets?
Well, I mean, in life, if you regret the past, we learn from our mistakes and we hope to improve upon them.
It seems like it'll forever be known as the Ground Zero Mosque. Is that a good thing, PR-wise?
Well, this is how the opposition has sought to brand us, to arouse the emotions of those who are fearful of Islam or who do not understand Islam, which has therefore made the work, our work, of seeking to build bridges and to seek to explain what Islam is and the true meaning of Islam to the vast majority of Americans who are not really informed adequately about it, and therefore it has expanded the need and amplified the need for us to do a better job in explaining Islam as a religion of peace, of compassion, of goodwill, of moderation. I mean, the idea of ummatan wasata, the idea of an intermediate, a moderate people, is what Islam is all about.
Talking about explaining things, I'd like you to explain some of the allegations against you, not that they're all true, but that you support terrorism.
That is an absolute falsehood. My work for the last 30, 40 years, all of my life, have demonstrated that I'm a man of peace. I built bridges with the other faith communities. I've been an extremely active participant in interfaith dialogue. From before it was known as interfaith, it used to be called ecumenical activities. And I'm here in Doha today attending the 8th conference of interfaith dialogue that is hosted by the DICID here. And
what about allegations you failed to condemn attacks on innocent civilians, whether by Hamas or other groups?
Again, I've condemned terrorism in all its forms and said all those who commit acts of terrorism are violating the principles of our religion. It's something which every religion condemns. No religion and no religious leader and no person who truly understands what our faith is all about can ever condone terrorism.
Are you anti-American in any shape or form?
Of course not. I'm an American citizen.
Explain this then. This is what your critics say. They say on a CBS 60 Minutes show, you're quoted as saying US policies were an accessory to the crime that happened. We have been an accessory to a lot of innocent lives dying in the world. Osama bin Laden is made in the USA. Is that anti-American?
That was a statement that was made. It was made in the context of trying to explain how our foreign policy has created such opposition in the Arab and Muslim world. But I regret having made a statement that has been seen in many circles as being lacking in compassion. And the thing that I've had to learn and will continue to learn to do is how to make the points in a more compassionate way.
Do you think you would have been criticized so much for being critical of American foreign policy if you were somebody else, if you had a different name? If you're a white American Christian, for example, rather than Imam Faisal?
Sam, it's not for me to speculate on what would happen if I were...
But do you think that's part of it? Do you think your identity is why people go after you in the US?
I believe that in the United States, we are all hyphenated Americans. We are all of different parts of the world. And the story that Muslims are undergoing today is something which Catholics went through 150 years ago, the Jewish community in America went through, which is why we've had such enormous support by the faith communities, the Jewish community, the Catholic community, the evangelical community. They have come and rallied around us because they know that what is happening today is not what is happening today that is focused on Muslims in America or American Muslims is really a story of immigration into America and into every society, and how we, as the most recent religious community to come into America are going through a process of developing who we are as American Muslims.
So you are, it sounds like you're saying you fear you are being seen as an outsider rather than an American by at least powerful sections of American society.
Well, this has been the history of America. Whenever a new community comes in, it has to elbow its way through, and it's a natural process. It's a process which, as I've lectured about and even said this morning in my lecture, it's part of the history of religions. Not only Islam, Christianity. When Islam spread from the Hijaz to what we call now the Muslim world, which was not Muslim at that time, it took 3-4 generations for it to establish a character or a flavor in each of these countries. So when you see Islam in Egypt, Islam in Morocco, in the Maghreb, Islam in Sub-Saharan Africa, Islam in Iran, you'll see the same aqidah, the same principles of worship, yet you have differences in our jurisprudence, in our law, differences in our culture, differences in our architecture, in our mosque architecture, in the way we dress. All are Islamic, equally Islamic. And what we need to do today in America is evolve what I call cultural expressions of Islam so that we are seen as part of the local fabric and not as aliens in America.
So if you're still not seen as fully part of America, is it too premature to take up a job that requires you to go around the world on behalf of the State Department telling Muslim countries that life is great for Muslims in America?
It is important for us as American Muslims to be the intermediates or the intermediaries between the nation of which we are citizens and whose principles we love and whose values we appreciate, that has welcomed us into the communities and has supported us as Muslims, and yet we who love our religion and faith of Islam. This is part of my role as a bridge builder, which is to show, because the media tends to highlight every negative thing. It doesn't highlight the positive. Every event after 9/11 in which a Muslim was attacked was covered by the media. But the tens of thousands of good news, the people who came and sent flowers and rallied about us, says, how can we help you? The young blonde girl who knocked on the door of a neighbor, a woman wearing hijab, saying, I understand you're afraid to go shopping. I'm here to volunteer for you. These stories were not covered. So it is our obligation.
But it is a bit of a mission impossible.
To ensure that there's a balance in our reporting. Look, everybody, we have to criticize ourselves. We need to criticize ourselves for what we do as a nation. We also have to criticize ourselves for the failings that we have as a faith community. There's a lot of things we need to do to fix. And fixing problems is part of the perennial work of what it means to be human.
But you don't think it's a mission impossible to tour the Muslim world in August, talking to them about Muslim communities in America and how great they're doing, while you're struggling to build an Islamic center and others are threatening to burn the Quran? That doesn't undermine your job?
Of course, that is why I say, Sami, that the real battleground is not between America and the world of Islam. The real battleground is not between Muslims and Christians or Muslims and Jews or Muslims and Americans. This is actually an incorrect analysis. The real battleground is between the peace-loving people, the moderates of all the faith traditions, and the hardliners and the extremists of all the faith traditions. There are hardline Americans, there are hardline extremist Muslims, there are hardline Christians, hardline Jews, and all of these hardliners are fueling each other, and they have hijacked the agenda. They have shaped the discourse today. And we, the moderates, the peace-loving people who are the majority of the people, have to take back this agenda. This is our responsibility and this is our task.
Talking about taking back and diffusing things, did you play any role in diffusing that whole row over Quran burning?
Well, naturally, we were held hostage by Pastor Jones. And because of our relationship with the evangelical Christians, especially people like the Reverend Jim Wallace and Jeff the leader of the evangelical Christians, who said, this guy, we don't even know who he is. And they know us, they've worked with us, we've had interfaith dialogue. They helped run interference on this guy. And they succeeded in diffusing that crisis, which is why I say it is the partnership between the moderates across the faith traditions and building those coalitions and working strategically and tactically in gaining yardage against the radicals of all of our faith traditions. You cannot equate a radical like Pastor Jones, with our work of moderation and trying to reach out to our communities. You cannot equate radicals in the Muslim world against the moderates of the Americans, the moderates of Christians, the moderates of Jews. We have to build those coalitions today, and by building those coalitions, I'm convinced that we can win this major war against, for hearts and minds.
How's your relationship now with the city officials, the mayor?
Excellent. This has been one of the most powerful moments in the history of the Muslim community in the United States and in New York and in America, where you have a Jewish mayor of an important city and Jewish leaders supporting Muslims building a cultural community center in New York City.
So the project is all speed ahead?
Inshallah.
How's your relationship with the project developer? There have been reports that you don't see eye to eye with him. Are those true?
We have an excellent relationship.
But do you see eye to eye on how this project is to
with
develop?
My own father, I used to have differences of opinion. With my wife, we have differences of opinion. I don't know if you don't have differences of opinion with those who are closest and dearest to you. But we have differences of opinion on certain things.
But are you in agreement over what is to be built?
We're in agreement on what's to be built. We are fully in agreement. We have worked tirelessly to make this thing work, and we are on our way to making it happen.
Who's paying for the project?
Well, we still have to initiate a capital campaign to raise the money for it.
But so far you've received pledges of investment, haven't you?
No, personally, I have not received pledges of investment. What has happened is that
you've received some investment, haven't you?
Is that the property was originally purchased by Sharif Al Gamal, the developer, a portion of which one building was supposed to be the mosque, and the rest was supposed to be a real estate development. After he invited me and accepted to be the imam, the leader of this mosque, I shared with him my vision, which I've had for the last 15, 20 years, of establishing a Muslim version of a YMCA, where you have athletic activities, where you have educational facilities, cultural programs, as well as a prayer space, as well as a dedicated prayer space. He bought into this vision. So the process of transforming the idea from a combined real estate mosque development to an Islamic cultural center, he bought into. And as we began to initiate our discussions and do the mechanics of sorting this all through, this whole project became politicized in May of this year, and it became an international incident.
Will the project now, though, not have any residential facilities, no commercial uses?
No. As it is now envisioned, it will be completely a 130,000 square foot community center with something that is architecturally beautiful, iconic, something that both we as Muslims and we as New Yorkers can take pride of as an additional beauty to our New York City skyline.
Has Mr. Sharif agreed to that 100%?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When do you expect to get the money together for the project?
Well, as soon as we raise the money,
What are your plans? How do you plan on raising the money?
Well, we're raising it from various sources, and
governments included.
He is from any sources of people who are who want to see peace. We welcome the funding.
Does that include governments, Imam Faisal?
We are not excluding anybody.
Do you think it could be controversial where you get your money from?
We have committed ourselves to full transparency, and we have committed ourselves to independence.
So you're not entirely open to wherever the money comes from?
No, I mean, of course. I mean, we cannot accept money from anybody who is on any kind of a list that is not acceptable. And neither will we accept any strings attached that we will have to be deprived of the freedom to develop the center as our board sees best and sees fit.
Do you think the political temperature now is favorable for you to go ahead with this project?
If there is an American religion, among the pillars of American religion is freedom of religion. And America prides itself on protection of its religious minorities and protecting their rights to practice their faith tradition unimpeded.
But we've seen politicians speak, many politicians, you mentioned Sarah Palin, speak against this project. Midterm elections aren't far away.
They are a minority within the Republican Party. That's why I said an extremely small minority of the extreme right wing of the Republican Party who were losing anyway, who did not have positions. You know, Sarah Palin is not in a position of power today. These are people who are trying to get positions and trying to run political office who sought to use this as a wedge issue in the current midterm election. After what happened this summer, they came back from the recess this August, and both parties have backed off because they've realized this is not the right thing to do. Neither is it the American thing to do.
You tour a lot of Muslim countries. What is your message to Muslim populations? Are you of those who say that politics and religion should be separated?
Well, I say that this subject is one of the unfinished businesses of the Muslim world.
Can you finish it for us now then?
I have a project on this, and that is what is the right balance of power, what is the right relationships between institutions of religious power and authority and institutions of political power and authority. This is the unfinished business of the Muslim world.
So what is your verdict? You're an imam, you're a scholar?
Well, I have a project which I have convened scholars from Morocco to Indonesia to
But I'm asking
on
for
a
your
definition.
personal opinion, Imam
Well, I
Faisal.
believe it's a nuanced issue. I think that I believe that religion should never be used for political ends, or when it's used subservient to political ends, it can become corrupted.
How does that sit with your State Department responsibilities?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, you're an emissary, aren't you? You travel on the funds of the US government to talk to the Muslim world.
Have done this.
You don't feel that that might be seen by some as religion being used for political gain?
No. We have to use, as long as we are fulfilling the purposes of our religious values. You see, when this is where the right relationship needs to be. Okay, what does separation of church and state mean in the West? It means different things in different countries. There's no separation of church and state in England. The Queen heads the Anglican Church. She appoints the Archbishop. But there is separation of religion and politics in England. In America, we have a concept of separation of church and state, but the separation between religion and politics is not as firewalled. Okay, so this is a complex subject which to treat properly requires a really nuanced understanding, because the values of our religion, of loving God and loving each other, should be something which our politicians protect and further. The values of helping the poor, the values of justice, adala, as we say in Islam, the support of families, the support of religious practice without coercion, and to help people practice their religion, to build schools and to build educational systems, to help families become more prosperous, to develop our economies. These are all religious values, religious principles. And our politicians and our systems of government should further that, and should further these values, but should not use religious identities to create conflicts between people. Religion should be used for purposes of peace building, of harmony between nations, and of raising the dignity of human beings.
How do you read the discourse of American Muslims, if we could make that generalization, after 9/11? Well, has the discourse become more defensive, some would say?
In some circles, certainly, because after 9/11, Islam was seen with suspicion. Islam was seen as a national security threat in America, because those who have attacked America have utilized the vocabulary of religion.
Can American Muslims turn that around?
This is part of what we hope. We have to be part of the solution.
But the American Muslim community is very divided amongst different organizations.
That's true of Muslims all over the world.
But you represent one of the sections of American Muslim society. Are you not concerned with that?
Well, we certainly are concerned with that, but there are areas of differences of opinion, which, as scholars have said, is part of the natural diversity of differences of thought. We have a ilm al-khilaf, as we say in our jurisprudence, which allows for differences of opinion, all of which are legitimate. But that is not the same thing as differences on fundamental values. On fundamental values, we all are united. And on fundamental values of being kind to each other, of respecting the dignity of every human being. This is something which cuts across all the faith traditions. It's not unique to Islam or to Christianity or to Judaism. All these Abrahamic faith traditions, all religions in fact, have come for us to honor both the glory of God and to honor the human being and the right and dignity of the karama, as we say, of a human being, which is what God created us in.
We started the interview by talking about, if I may call it, the Ground Zero project. Do you think that this project has taken the cause of Muslims in America forward?
The short answer is yes.
How?
The longer answer is we have a lot more work to do to ensure that it takes it forward.
What bridges have been built?
There has been an enormous rallying around this project, around the rights to do this project. The Americans, even those who are emotionally uncomfortable, recognize our constitutional right to do this. The task we have ahead of us is to continue to wage this campaign of turning, because the minds are with us.
But some of the polls, not all the polls show that the majority of Americans support this project.
Hear me out, Sami. The minds are with us. The hearts are not yet.
Okay. Do you think the storm has passed?
Because Americans recognize the right of every religious community to practice its faith. And they recognize we have the constitutional right to do this. This is something which President Obama, down to those who are opposed to us, have said, you have the right to do it, but you don't feel comfortable about it. So their minds are with us. We have to turn their hearts around. And with opportunities like this, in which we show ourselves, and as we continue to work on this project, as they see what it looks like, some people think that we're going to have a minaret on a dome and a minaret. We show them architectural plans. Says, oh my God, we got architectural. I mean, the architectural segment of the Washington Post said this is a fantastic piece of architecture. So as people begin to understand our project more and more, as they see it form in front of their eyes, I know in my bones we will turn their hearts around, Sami.
Let's hope for more peace and understanding between hearts. Imam Faisal, thanks so much for talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you, Sami, for having me on.